I had told most people that the odds on 2005 being as busy as 2004 was going to be pretty remote. Unfortunately, I was wrong.
A lot of people died in Hurricane Katrina because they based their decision-making on what happened in Camille.
The government can't do it all, especially local government, because they're a victim too.
This is the National Hurricane Survival Test, brought to you by the National Hurricane Center, Plylocks, the Salvation Army, the National Emergency Management Association, Progress Energy, Bell South, and Travelers Insurance. Here now your host, Dr. Bob Sheets, former director of the National Hurricane Center.
The memory of that terrible hurricane season remains as clear as if it were yesterday. In more than 100 years of our records, there's never been a hurricane season as destructive as was 2005. Hello, I'm Dr. Bob Sheets. Welcome to the National Hurricane Survival Test. During the next half hour, we'll help you prepare for this and every other storm season. Nothing is more important than preparation when it comes to dealing with hurricanes. Even if you don't live along the coast or areas not usually threatened by hurricanes, you could be at risk for heavy rains and widespread flooding. You must be ready.
The Katrina part of 2005 was sort of what so many of us had feared.
28 named storms plowed across the Atlantic and Caribbean in 2005, with 15 of them becoming hurricanes, both records.
If there's any good that can come out of this, I would hope it would be the motivation to get people prepared, people and communities prepared for the next hurricane.
The season will, perhaps, always be remembered for the staggering devastation of Katrina. But there were other storms which killed and destroyed. Wilma, Rita, Dennis.
It does take public responsibility, and it really doesn't start the day that the storm enters the Gulf. I mean, it started months ago for this upcoming hurricane season, and as a result, people really need to pay attention to that.
Nevertheless, in the year of Katrina, the damage inflicted was so far beyond anyone's expectation and comprehension that, in the aftermath, survivors immediately moved it to the top of the most damaging list, ahead of 1969's Camille, considered by most Gulf Coast residents as the all-time big one.
Everybody was under the impression that nothing was going to happen to us. That's why we were actually left there. But something did happen to us.
It was very, very tragic to see so many beautiful things that had been there for such a long time completely demolished.
Roy Lane and Rosemary Webster were among the hundreds of thousands who faced Katrina's fury in Louisiana and Mississippi. Forced to the roof of the Bay St. Louis nursing home where he worked, Lane endured the storm's full fury for nearly 4 hours.
And what we wound up doing was floating our animals and all of our pets that we could find on waterproof mattresses. And we floated them through the building to the outside. Once we got to the outside, we wound up spending 3.5 hours on the rooftop with the wind and rain, trees snapping, tornado sounds, just a mass of different ingredients and different elements hitting us at one time.
It looks like they just lined up bulldozers side by side, starting at the water line and just pushed inland. There are very few structures remaining, even trees. Kind of reminds me of some of the pictures, that I saw from the, London Blitz back in World War II, where you just have debris piled up. The difference is it was a long line. You just go in about a half to a mile in some spots, and it was just a continuous line of a debris pile 50 feet high. It's just very, very saddening to see.
The big change between the different categories of hurricanes. The damage doesn't go up linearly, it goes up exponentially. So a Category 2 hurricane is not just twice as bad as a Cat 1, it's probably about 10 times as bad if you look at the damages. A Cat 3 is not 3 times as bad, it's probably 50 times as bad. So yeah, all bets are off. The stronger the hurricane gets, the worse the damage, much worse. Well, we have a lot of different computer models to look at nowadays, and we probably look at a dozen or so of the better ones every time we sit down and make forecasts. We make that 5-day forecast every 6 hours. We know that some models are better than others in certain situations, and the hurricane forecasters really get some credit because they're able to beat the operational models, each individual operational model on average year after year. And so they get